The Naked Truth.
All right. That is right. We are bringing you the Naked Truth, and I am so excited about this show. I can barely contain myself because I have my brother and my sister actually in the studio, and you always have an opportunity to hear from him, but rarely do you have an opportunity to actually see him live in the studio with me. So we want to welcome in the studio, not to our show, because of course he's our resident expert who's written several books and been in several reality shows. He's a man with a plan. He's my brother Charity from another mother.
Here we go.
You know, we're dealing with her. You know, Danielle, she has moments because she thinks it's corny, but we don't think it's corny. So anyway, welcome.
Well, it's your show. So.
Exactly. Hassani Pettiford is in the studio.
In the building, live and full of
And his lovely wife, Danielle Pettiford, is in the studio.
Finally.
I'm so excited.
Woo.
Actually,
yes.
This weekend, she's my girlfriend.
Oh, that's right. You
Yeah.
did mention that. So, we want to talk about that.
Yes.
Because it actually put a different spin on things. So, I want you to share a little bit about that.
But
Charity?
before we do that, we
Yes.
have a really special birthday. I don't know if everybody, is aware, but Dr. Raquel Watts' birthday is today. Like,
Look at that.
today. So happy birthday to the pioneer of the show and the
Yes.
brains behind the
Thank
show and
you.
the heart behind it. So we love you and we appreciate
Oh, I love you guys too. And what a gift. This is really, I'm excited to be here on my birthday. Normally I want to be nowhere near work or any responsibility, but the show means that much. And then with you all here, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to interview you live. How do you feel being in the studio?
I feel this is surreal, to be a part of the show and to see it through kind of like a screen.
Yes.
Now I get to see the full dimensions of it, and I'm enjoying it. This is
Yes, and you
exciting.
see how we get all these things. You're looking like, where should I look? Where should I look? Anyway, you came in town because you and Danielle actually shared at the Crenshaw Christian Center's Marriage Encounter on Friday night. And you had been doing a Skype series where you were actually communicating through Skype to the couples, and you decided to come in live and let them have a live interaction. How did that feel different from Skype in terms of you being able to relate to the people?
Well, you know what? When you're ministering through Skype, you have a screen, so you're not able to really connect. You don't feel the energy. You don't see the facial expressions. You don't know if they're really getting it. It's kind of like a disconnect.
Yes.
But being there live in person and being able to touch and feel and kind of congregate with them, it just brought on a different energy, and we really enjoyed it.
I did.
That's good. That's good. I think the people really did. They said great things about it. And, it's interesting because, how we had talked about sometimes when you get deep, people get really quiet. And then you have situations where people don't want to ask a lot of questions, especially if they have to stand up and be seen.
Yes. Right.
Because it's actually disclosing their personal business. Right. But I like the fact that the audience was at least willing to write a note, send you a text, which was brilliant. I like the text me a question. That works.
It's deep because, when we speak to singles don't mind talking, sharing, asking their questions. They're the loudest ones. But married folks, they are scared.
They're like, listen.
Well, I was talking to I went to an event on Saturday with some of the married women who were, a part of the Marriage Encounter event on Friday. And I asked them, how did you like it? And they said, I think it was really good because I think, it allows us to see that other people are going through what we're going through. And I think sometimes they're quiet because, one, they think that they're the only person going through that, or two, that they're afraid that they're the only person going through that. So I think to hear other people ask the questions that they did, it allowed them to see, like, oh man, like I'm not the only one. So I think it was really good. I think you hit it across the singles and the marriage. So I think it was great.
I think that if we separate the husbands and the wives, that we'll find that they will. Because when we do that in other sessions, when we've done that before, wives open up.
They do.
They will tell you all their business. They'll ask all their questions.
Yes.
And you experience that too,
you're
right?
like, you're going to get in trouble when we go in another room, right?
So maybe we try that next time, separating the men and the women, and then we'll really get some questions, and then bringing them together.
So I think the wives may feel like, man, if I say something, even though I'm willing to, he may really get me at home and say, well, you sharing our business. I can't believe you said that. Yeah. So,
Husbands feel the same way too. I mean,
that's true.
A lot of men will call me, email me, and text me and just cry out. Listen, men have emotions, and they are going through.
That's true.
And they feel
That's
like if
true.
I say anything, I'm going to be punished. Forget getting home. As soon as I get in the car,
Right.
it's on.
Right.
So I appreciate the
That's
fact that people
interesting.
were able to text their questions and we can deal with real issues in real ways. It's funny because I was getting these texts and people would say, listen, don't read below this line. This is just for you. Because if I shared the full question, then obviously people would know who I was talking about.
Oh, right.
So so it was interesting how we had to kind of
And then
filter
I
those
was
questions.
wondering how the spouse would text without the husband knowing. Like they're sitting right next to each other, so they're going.
Yeah, because
how did they
if
do that?
you're married to a nosy one like this one, who's
I would-
all up
for
in your
me,
space,
I would
I
know.
told her baby power.
Incognito,
Yes,
I would know.
I would
There's
know
only
too.
3 questions went up.
incognito.
Yeah, incognito.
Only 3 questions went up. One of them sounds like our problem. It was you.
Yes,
You know.
exactly. And that's another thing. I mean, you don't know that you sound like. I mean, that's your problem.
Right.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting. But the thing about couples right now, and we know going back to Adam and Eve that the devil really hit marriages very early on. I mean, and he attempted to sever the relationship and the trust and the communication from the very beginning. And that's the same thing that still happens in marriages now. You find that the problems aren't unique.
Right.
They're the same problems
Same.
just being regurgitated in people's homes.
But see, that's what's hopeful. Because the problems are the same, like when we counsel couples, nothing surprises us. It's the
That's
same
good.
old stuff.
That's good.
So that means if everyone's going through the same thing, then that means that there's a roadmap that's already been established.
Yes.
There's a path that already exists. And as long as you do the appropriate things necessary, you can get back on that path, you can continue your journey and reach your ultimate destination. What's scary is if I come across situations that just stump me.
Right.
And unfortunately,
Has that happened?
every now then and again, I mean, you have variations of problems that are just like scratching your head.
You got to
sending
give us
back
an
in the books.
example.
I don't-
Inquiring
this-
mind
this is
wants
a-
to know.
Maybe you
This
won't
is
give an
a
example.
listen. This is a G representing gospel
Yeah.
related
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
I don't know if the listeners.
Oh,
are
There
busy.
have been some situations where I've said, you need to pass this on to somebody else because you don't want to dig into this issue.
Yes,
there
yes.
are
I
some.
mean, just without going too deep, like for instance, we just had an intensive in Colorado, and one of the issues on the table was the fact that the wife kind of felt like she was in a relationship with a man that was kind of dominating and domineering,
Right.
and then there were thoughts of infidelity, but nothing really confirmed.
Yes.
And so he had a moment of transparency, and in that session, he admitted that he had been unfaithful to his wife 2 times, but that wasn't even the issue. What was deeper than that was the fact that he was a molester. He actually sexually assaulted his daughter several times. He was involved with incest with his own daughter for like 3 years. Every time the wife would slip away to a Bible study meeting or a prayer meeting, he would wait for his daughter to come out of the bathroom in her robe, would follow in her room, and persist to sexually pursue her. And those are the hard, sticky issues
Right.
that sometimes you have to work through. And
I mean, I mean, because I'm just thinking as a wife, and you're listening to this full disclosure,
Yeah.
you almost want to jump on somebody, and so you almost have to be police cop, and
Oh, yeah.
you're like, okay, calm
those
down.
Yeah.
sessions get heated.
Yeah.
And then you have other things where people have different sexual appetites, and what works for one doesn't work for another. And if you've been highly influenced by pornography, you want to bring things into your bedroom that animals wouldn't even participate in, and it can
crazy.
be demeaning, dehumanizing, if you will, to your spouse. So how to work through that?
Yes. And are these things that can be disclosed, you think, at the onset of a relationship? I mean, do people tell you, I watch a lot of pornography and I would like to try the pill trick. I mean, you know what I'm saying? What? I just made up
Never heard
something.
of it. You made that one up.
The pill trick. I made it up.
That's right. Don't give it away. Don't let people thinking you're watching pornography.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, sounds like you know something.
But I mean, Danielle could chime in on this, but I think a lot of times people lie their way into a relationship. They put on false faces, they put on disguises, they don't show you who they really are. And through time, now, not every question is appropriate to ask, not every answer is appropriate to be given on day one.
Right.
You want to develop chemistry and see if there's a good rapport,
That's
and
true.
slowly but surely begin to peel back those onions, because we're onions,
Yeah.
and we
That's
have
so
layers.
true.
Yeah.
You have
That's
to peel
so
back
true.
those layers over time.
I think there's just a method to peeling those layers because you will be scared off if somebody peeled all the layers.
Yeah.
If
Right.
somebody really approached you with all of their issues that they're working with, you'll never get anywhere. But you do have to have some kind of a method to disclose disclose, especially stuff like that.
Yeah.
Something deep like that that's a sexual issue that you're going to encounter.
Right. I mean, yeah. I have all kinds of thoughts on that one. Charity, do you have a question before I keep going? Because I don't want to.
Well, I don't have a question, but in terms of the layers, I just think more people need to understand that even though you don't peel all the layers at one time, they need to be peeled.
They need to be peeled.
I feel like people don't peel them until you get married, and then all these issues arise because you didn't even peel the first 2 layers.
There you go.
That's so true.
And so I think singles especially really need to understand that, really getting to know somebody. And of course, some time frames are different for people, but that process still needs to happen at some point.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say a deeper point to what Charity is saying is that a lot of people don't know all their layers. Because you're still learning yourself.
Yes.
So you get into a relationship and you've peeled some layers and you realize there's all kinds of mess in me I didn't deal with before we got here. Sorry.
Right.
And layers are exposed in marriage.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? You're like, because you can see yourself in ways that you haven't seen yourself.
Because your partner is your mirror.
That's
See,
right.
your
It's
eyes
so true.
allow you to look outward, not inward. So if I'm looking outward, I'm looking at her, she's looking at me, and she can see things that I don't see in myself. We become oblivious to our own mess.
That's
and
so
so
true.
all of these issues creep up in a relationship, and if you have the willingness to work through it, you can. Everybody has a different tolerance level, and certain people who are willing to accept certain things, others aren't willing to accept those things, and that's why we have so many issues in relationships today that don't last.
Right.
Now, I do have a question.
Yes.
As someone who is single and for other singles, is there a worksheet that you guys have, or is there something that you can recommend to do to help peel your own layers before?
I mean, there's a number of books that I could always recommend. I mean, I'm a reader. Everybody learns differently.
Right.
So whether it be through reading a book, whether it be going to a seminar, watching videos, or getting counseling. Let me take that word back.
Yes.
Because some people assume that
have a
if I'm
problem
going to
with it.
counseling, something's psychologically wrong with me. Look at it as this. Get a coach. Just like if I want to go in the gym, work out, lose weight, get fit, I may hire a personal
Fitness coach.
trainer. Right? That can help me with my form
Yes.
and motivate me to go through. Well, we all need that in our lives. A life coach, a dating coach, a relationship coach. We need coaches. I talk about this all the time. As I'm developing as a man, I have certain individuals in my life who are there to help me bring out the best of myself.
That's awesome.
We all need that. And so if we get caught up in this mentality that we know it all and we got it all together, that's our biggest deception.
And it is so true. It is so true. And the other thing about it is going back to the layers and what you're talking about, even about admitting that you may need a coach. It goes back to trust. Like a lot of times you don't even trust your partner enough to reveal the layer, and that says a lot.
That's
because if I'm scared to tell you that I grapple with this or I have this issue, thinking that you're going to judge me or that you won't support me, then that's already an issue, And then same thing with admitting to yourself that, hey, I need assistance. I need a coach. I'm not cutting it when it comes to this area. That is important. And a lot of people don't cross those thresholds.
No.
Well, based off of what I'm so sorry, Hassani.
No, go ahead.
Based off of what you're saying, it sounds like a pride and trust issue too, in a sense. Like I'm too prideful to say something, or I'm too prideful to even say something that I need help or that I want to go to help because like Hassani said, I know it all. So I think that pride
is true. And then sometimes for men, and you're right, but men, I think God built men to have a natural pride. I don't know if that makes sense, but they're a lot more prideful than women. Yeah, their ego is a lot more intact, a lot more operative than women, and it's designed that way. It's not a bad thing. It's actually designed that way because that's why you all are not affected emotionally like we are. Because you have something that is protected.
I think also adding to that, what Charity said, that people also need to make a safe place for their spouse or their partner to be transparent about things. And that's one of the reasons why we struggle to get couples to write a question or stand up to the mic and ask a question, because they know they'll be beat up and punished later. So if we haven't created a safe environment to come to our spouse about an issue that we're having or a shortcoming that we have or whatever it is, it's not going to happen because you don't want the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
I think we have a problem with acceptance. We don't necessarily accept our partners for who they are, and we think we can evangelize them into being just like us, thinking like us, responding like us, being, wanting to be wired just like us, but we're different. I say it all the time that men and women, husbands and wives, when they come together, they represent an odd couple. Everything about us is completely different, diametrically opposed, but it is those differences that allow us to have a phenomenal relationship if we accept who our partner is and why God brought them into our lives.
So how do you do that? Is it by knowing that God brought the person in your life, so just accept that what God's doing, he can do no wrong. But then you flip it, even if you think that, it's just something in you that wants the person to be like you. I don't know. It's just naturally.
I think it's a process. I think it's a process because ultimately accepting the issues or whatever, accepting your spouse really comes from you accepting you and taking ownership of you and your issues. So when you stop focusing on the mess of your spouse and you start focusing on your own stuff and getting your own self together, then you are you're more sensitive to your spouse's issue, you're more accommodating, and you're willing to work through it.
Lovely. That's good.
That's a good point. So husbands and wives get married and they put on their best self. They're wearing that mask that looks all pretty and good, but their issues are right behind them as witnesses in this ceremony.
Okay.
So this is how close we are when we get married.
Yes.
Our issues are behind us.
Yes.
Once we say I do, and now we're in a relationship, what happens is those issues that we've hidden come to the forefront.
Okay.
And now if my issues are in front of me, her issues are in front of her, it creates a blockage, a wedge in between us. And so when we begin to look at ourselves and when we begin to divorce ourselves from our own way of being and our own way of doing, we're removing all of these wedges that are causing this huge blockage, and we're able to come together. That's what emotional connection is. But most couples are experiencing emotional disconnect, emotional divorce, social divorce, because they are wounded soldiers on a battlefield because they're still hurt from issues of their past, issues that stem back to childhood. And so because of our family marinade, we allow all of this mess to creep into our relationships, thus causing conflict. And conflict is nothing more than two wills operating in the same place at the same time. And because we're not on one accord, that's why we have so much discord in our relationships.
Sound like
that is
sermon
good.
phrase right there.
So yeah, I mean it's interesting. When you think about marriages and you think about relationships, and I know some of the questions that come up is people may be hearing, are the roles, the biblical roles, to be adhered to? And when I say that is the man, the man would come into a relationship and go, I'm the head. Okay, I'm the head. And they come off as if the woman is supposed to just listen to anything that he says in regards to the relationship. But you had said something in the meeting which I thought was interesting, and I don't think that from that Christianity really explains this the way you said it. So I wanted to see if you can help us. And that is, you said we're your partners. One shouldn't feel like the other is in control or taking advantage of the other just because they have a particular role. So how are you the leader without really taking advantage or using your power to control?
Right. I think that's exactly the point. You have a lot of men that want to come in and be the head, but they ain't nothing but a big head. Ego-minded, ego-driven individual that suppresses their spouse, and it becomes a slave master type of relationship.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we're partners. We coexist, right? Men are the masculine expression of who God is in the earth. Women are the feminine expression of God in the earth. So when a man and a woman come together the right way, and we're perfectly fit to be designed that way, we represent the total essence of God in the earth. God represents balance. God represents order. And that same level of balance and order should exist in the home. And so as a husband, I know my strengths, but I know my weaknesses. She's there to accommodate me in areas that I'm weak and vice versa. So if we both have weaknesses and we both have strengths, when we come together, you should never see any of our weaknesses because our strengths are compensating for the other person's weakness. That represents true unity. But the problem is you do have so many women who are stepping outside of their role, trying to dominate their husbands, and you have men who are trying to dominate their wives, and there's no room for that. I said that there should be no independence in a relationship.
Right.
There should be no dependence in a relationship. There should be no codependence in a relationship. The only thing you have to have is interdependence, where you rely on one another. And that's what makes this partnership so awesome, because where I'm weak, she's strong, vice versa, and we benefit from each other's individuality.
That is so true. So even though you may be given the role as the head of the household, that just means that you ultimately accept the responsibility of what the house does. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to your spouse and take advantage of the strengths of your spouse that could help that decision become more sound.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what you have is you have a whole lot of men who are very chauvinistic in their thinking.
Oh, gosh.
They have this Archie Bunker mentality. They have this old archaic way of thinking that puts them at the top and it puts everybody else at the bottom, and everyone suffers. The spouse, the children, everybody. And a lot of times, a lot of these men who are so full of bravado and masculinity, what they're doing is they're overcompensating for their insecurities, for their lack, for their voids. And so because they don't know, they put on this image as if they do, and everybody suffers.
Wow.
That it's ego.
Yes, sir.
That is.
You know what it kind of reminds me
Yes.
of? When Pastor Price of Crenshaw Christian Center was talking today about the Nimrod Spirit and how it always meant to elevate and have this sense of like power, and how even in religion or church, that's how a religious system is set up to be, you know, the overarching person or the very dominant role, and creates all of these things to overcompensate for what they don't have. So I think it's interesting that you said that.
So is that a Nimrod spirit?
You better believe it.
The spirit of control,
You got
domination.
the Nimrod spirit, you got the Jezebel spirit, you got all types of spirits except for the Holy Spirit, which should be the Holy Spirit.
All those
operating
spirits are
in the
sleeping
house.
together.
But at least Nimrod had a vision. Like there are a lot of situations where the man is trying to dominate,
doesn't have vision.
but he doesn't have vision. And so the woman is raising up, and she's becoming this dominating woman because she's just getting business done. So that it's like, the man not having a vision creates disorder as well.
Where there's no vision, the people perish.
Amen.
And so it's important that the vision comes from God. It's got to be a God-ordained vision, because I can have my own vision that sends my entire family into a ditch. It's so interesting when the pastor was teaching, I don't know what he said, but it had me thinking about Adam. And, Adam, the fall of man came from his behavior. And I said, well, how do men rise up? I want to talk about the rise of men. We've got to, in essence, look at that and reverse engineer his fall. Well, he fell because he lost his relationship with God because he was disobedient to the word of God, followed someone who was influenced by the enemy, right? So really, men, as the head of their household, they have to have a serious relationship with God. Your true identity and your expression as a husband and as a father comes through your relationship with God. We were with a couple last night that has an amazing love story, and they've been through all types of trials in their marriage and just everything. And, I said, what was it? What's so unique about you that even when betrayal hit your marriage, you were still willing to work it out and fight for your marriage? And she was just like, I know without a shadow of a doubt that I love this man. And when God told me 15 years ago that was your husband and you're going to make it through and you're going to, she said, my love for Christ allows me to fight for what it is that I have. And I'm only here because of Christ. And I think that when we get married, that's the only time that we allow Christ or God to enter into our marriage, at the ceremony. And as soon as we get married and get into our homes, we kick God, we kick Christ, we kick Bible, we kick the Spirit completely out. And we do things on our own. So therefore, we have no biblical foundation to stand on. And that's why our divorces mirror the world. And in some cases, they're worse.
Okay.
This is good.
Is it good?
Periscope is loving this. Periscope, you getting comments, so say hi to Periscope.
Hey, Periscope.
Periscope.
We love
We hope,
Periscope.
tune in. You know what? And how can you not love good information? I mean, my thing is, if you're going to be on Periscope or any social media, YouTube, whatever, get good stuff. Get stuff that can help you. And so this absolutely can. So, Charity, do you have a question for the singles, or you want me to keep going on the married tip? Because I know you
it's
may want
not
to bring
even
them
a
in.
question. I just think that hearing all of these things just gets my brain working and thinking, because as Asanya was saying, people always bring in God at the marriage ceremony, and I think as singles, just being vigilant about people's patterns before that. So in terms of God, I'm saying, you're dating somebody, he's saying, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, and I feel like so many times people take that for face value and don't see the fruit of that. Like, okay, you say you're a Christian, so are you studying the word? Are you going and really getting into it and spending time with God? So I think really not just taking it for face value, like I said, but seeing the patterns before the ceremony will actually tell you what someone is about or what someone does and what will even continue in the marriage.
Absolutely.
That's real talk.
Absolutely.
You know, we say all the time when it comes to being single, there's 3 relationships you got to master. Your relationship with yourself, your internal relationship, your relationship with God, your vertical relationship, and then your relationship with others, your horizontal relationship. And the thing is, listen, if you truly have an intimate relationship with your God, it will prepare you and teach you how to have a horizontal relationship with your spouse. So just like my wife needs to be praised and admired,
Yes.
well, how do I learn that? Through my praise and admiration of my God.
Right.
So being in right relationship with him prepares me for this. And I think that many of us are religious in what we do,
Right.
But we don't have true intimacy in relationship.
And you know, and piggybacking off of that, I want to say that a lot of times, let's say that you do meet someone and you're not maybe in a committed relationship with that person, but you meet somebody and they're interested in you and you may be interested in them. I think that it could be an opportunity for the attraction to benefit one or the other and bring them closer, because think about it, a lot of couples, I think about Apostle Price and Dr. Betty, you know, he was saying all the good stuff. Yeah, you know, I go to church, I'm a Christian. And as soon as they got married, he says, I ain't going to church anymore. Don't cook this, don't cook that. So, but then look at him now. Dr. Betty stayed focused on church, and she'll tell the story, and he had to come along because of her lifestyle. But he is the man, he's an incredible man of faith because she stayed in there. She stood in the gap. So, I think that we just need to realize, and we need to be really sensitive to why God has somebody coming into our life. Because the person you throw away could be the person he's trying to get to him. Because a lot of times women are the magnets that get men closer to God.
It's true. It's
So, I mean, how do you, I don't want to tell single, and this is, I would,
Tricky, very
It is
well,
tricky.
yeah, because years ago, and I'm still single, I would say the same thing. No, if he doesn't have this and have this and have that, but I don't know if God's moving necessarily that way, all the time. Because if that's the case, we would be the women who are strong, who have God in them, throughout their whole being, would never be able to minister to these men.
Yeah, I think that it is very tricky,
It's tricky.
because when you think about teaming up with somebody that doesn't believe what you believe, that's not equally yoked, there could be a mission behind it. He could come around. There are many stories where a God-believing person brought somebody that was in the streets into the church, and there's a magnificent story. But I do think that there's a reason for being yoked with somebody that believes what you believe, because you can negotiate.
Right.
Even when we were going through our toughest seasons and we were not seeing eye to eye, and I did not like him, he did not like me, and nothing was going right, there was the foundation of Christ that allowed me to negotiate.
Right.
I had to go to God on certain things.
But you could say, now, God doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also just knew what he believed. So I know, okay, if I go to God on this, I know what he believes. I know his position. We have some ground to negotiate on, and God is the judge.
Right. And then I do want to clarify something, because and it's good that you said that, because I can clarify. What I didn't mean like a person who was unsaved and a person who's saved. I'm saying a lot of times people who they'll say that they're Christian and that they go to church and that they were raised in church, but they're not on the same level as
Right.
you.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say.
Still wilding out.
Yeah, they're still kind of, they're not
out.
as focused. They may not be reading their Bible every day like you. They may not have a prayer life like you, but they pray and they believe in God. They accepted Jesus Christ. They believe in even the Holy Spirit, but they just don't have that.
They're equally yoked.
So they are equally yoked.
I mean, on
There
some
we go.
level. On some level. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want somebody exactly 1 + 1 equally yoked, you're gonna be digging a long time to find
Okay.
somebody that's exactly on your level, spiritually, mentally, physically,
But Danielle,
financially.
but ladies, and I love my girls. I have a lot of single girls. There are a lot of single women who are single because they're waiting for that.
I know this.
They are waiting. A lot of people are like, for instance, because especially at my church, we have such, a high level of word that we're getting, and we've seen Apostle Price, and he talks about how he treats his wife, and he talks about what he does and how she, and so women, they want that, but they don't realize Dr. Betty worked to that
Right.
point.
They don't know the work.
This is 60, 70 years later. I mean, 60 years later, this is what you see. So, but a lot of the girls that are young and single, they want that now. And if they don't see it, they're willing to wait. But are you willing to wait your entire life and may not get, because you're not hearing from God.
Forget that. Forget wait. Like even when you wait, you might find you still gonna work.
You still
I
gonna
don't
work.
know anybody that's in a happy relationship that didn't go through some mess that worked them to get to the place where they are.
Right.
Like you gonna work no matter what. So you might as well lower. I mean, I shouldn't say lower the standard. I do not mean lower the
Right,
standard.
because I know you don't mean it.
No, but I do mean, come to grips. Maybe that's
Right.
the best.
Come to grips with you going to have to do some work,
Yeah.
and everybody's not perfect, and no one's going to
Right.
be what you want them to be when you meet them.
Be realistic.
You're not even what
You're not even what they want you,
Right.
you to be. Yeah.
It's funny because I go into audiences all the time and I say, all right, all the women in the room, by show of hands, how many of you at some point in your life want to meet and marry the man of your dreams? Raise your hand. Let me see you. And all the hand goes up. And I'm like, well, you know what? You might as well get back in your bed, get into a deep sleep.
And dream.
Because
And stay
that's
there.
exactly where you're going to find him, in your dreams. Because the man of your dreams is an ideal man. There's no such thing as an ideal man. That represents perfection. In your dream state is the same place where you'll find Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, and every other fake white person that we celebrate throughout the year.
Right.
That is the ideal. Did I say
Right.
that? Listen, I just got to be his son. I'm just saying,
Hey.
every man and every woman is going to have something, right?
Right.
So you have to work through some things. That's what it's all about. And so if you're waiting for perfection, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yes, sir.
Women who I'll never settle. Well, they're settling to be alone for the rest
That's
of their
right.
life.
That's what they settled for.
That's
Exactly.
right. I mean, you know, and I really want to tell the girls that, because there's a lot of women who are just thinking God left them, that God, He doesn't want to give them what they desire. But you have to realize that God has a purpose and a plan and everything. And so there may be somebody He's linking you to be able to bring that person up, to bring you up in areas you don't even know
Let me
that you
tell
need
you
to grow.
something. I am not today who I was when we first met, when we got married. I prayerfully have gotten a whole lot better, because I was crazy in some areas. I had to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I didn't understand. I had a great dad.
Yes.
And I experienced a marriage. My parents are still married today. All my aunts and uncles still married. My grandparents were married up until my grandfather died. I don't even understand divorce. I've never experienced it. I've never seen it. I don't get it. But that doesn't mean that everything I observed in marriage was healthy.
Right.
So I did pick up certain things that weren't necessarily good and brought them into my marriage. And through a lot of the struggle that we had to endure, I had to remove and release a lot of that stuff. So I'm a better person today than what I was. And so people are looking for the end, the now, instead of the beginning. Despise not the days of small beginnings.
Yes.
You're going to have to work through some things, and you can't, listen, there's just so many unrealistic, very picky individuals on both sides, men and women. And we're looking for different things, and we cancel everybody out with this ridiculous list and checklist that we have when we meet somebody.
That's so true. That's so true. So I'm glad we got that information out, because this list is great, but you got to allow God to show you and be sensitive. When God places somebody in your heart, that may be the first sign that there's something there. You don't have to move out on it. You can watch, you can wait. But if somebody has a heart to do right, God can work with them.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
God can
So
work
so
with
all you single men and women who are out there, you go on your first date, you say, "Oh, I don't know. It's just I didn't feel anything." Go out on a second one. First impressions, they say, are lasting impressions. But listen, give it a chance. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? All you have is time. Enjoy yourself. We talked about how so many women, in particular, single women, go from work to home, church to
Yes.
home. They're not like you. You travel the world. You go to the nicest, restaurants and hotels, and you're out. You go to activities and sports. I mean, you do all types of things. You are a well-rounded individual. And I think that if more people begin to just enjoy their life, become social, don't get caught up in, I'm not supposed to approach a man, because if I approach a man, then I'm breaking the covenant of God. Listen, you can say, "Hi, my name is,
Right.
nice to meet you." I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think we have so many limitations we place on ourselves, which keep keep us from having the very thing that we are trying to get.
I'm laughing because when you said that, I have a friend that says there's so many spooky and kooky women out there. I don't want to be bothered with them. And he says they're so spiritually spooky and kooky. It's like,
Yes.
you know, if I don't come into quoting the scripture to them, they're like, oh, you're not saved. Well, you know, so we have to really be careful how judgmental and how religious we become.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of religious people out there, and God's trying to get to people's hearts.
Thank you.
He's trying to touch people in a different way, and we have to be open to do that.
I was saying, some people get nervous. They're nervous on that first date, so they're like, that second date. So, you know, what you were saying. But that
Right.
first date,
That's true.
dates can be expensive. So I think you said, you know, start off with maybe some coffee, something non-expensive.
Yeah, because nervous and spending
yeah.
$150, maybe,
Right,
they'll be
right.
terrified.
That's true. Because some women will take it. Some women will look at it as, listen, it's a free meal. You know, I'm going to leave this joker on.
Yes.
I'm going to make sure he
That's
takes
a
me to the
shame.
best
You're going to take
restaurant.
me to Crust Station and I'll be done.
So
Yeah.
I get the coffee, right, and you work your way into something. You know, I never did the whole McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's thing. That just wasn't my style. I didn't come from that.
Not for those October
But I
girls.
get it. I get it. The dating scene is just different today. You know what I mean? So if you start off light with coffee and great conversation, and at the end of the day, don't make the first date an interrogation.
Right.
Don't make it an interview. Stop trying to date to find a mate.
Right.
I have a major problem with that.
You
Because
do?
if I date for the purpose of finding a mate, once again, I'm looking for the Pastor Price, who he is today. And if you don't line up with the person that I want now,
That's right.
I'm checking, you know, I'm scratching you off the list. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to be left. You've got to have something to work with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's so good. And also too with the dates, I feel like people put so much pressure on first dates. I always tell like my friends, or even what I would do, like do something super fun, super that is, you know, causes people to be super. There's go-kart, you know, racing, or you know, the arcade, something where it causes you to be out of your comfort zone and
Yes.
to actually have laser tag, like, you know what I'm saying, bowling, like something that's not so like, okay, I have to get super dressed up in a dress that I can't breathe in, and I have to sit here, and like that's just retarded, like absolutely retarded.
So true.
I
We were
agree.
talking about you today.
Me?
We were talking about how Charity. Remember when you jumped off that cliff into the
cliff
water?
jumping, yes.
Cliff jumping, right?
Yes.
So right, it's to your point. It's not about being so traditional, like movie, dinner, conversation. No, be fun. Allow the adventurous side of yourself to come out and connect with people based upon that, and just enjoy your life. Because listen, I've always said, if you're single and sad, you're going to be married and mad. But if you're single and satisfied, you're going to be married and gratified. So who you are before you say I do is who you'll ultimately be after you say I do. So you might as well just enjoy life now.
Right.
Does that
That's
make
so
sense?
true. That's so true. Absolutely. I say enjoy life now. Now, I want to kind of segue into what you're doing outside of being on the program, which I know you are a resident expert here. But you have, you and Danielle actually have a ministry. I'm going to call it a ministry for lack of better words, because I don't want to just call it an organization, where you attempt to, you don't attempt to do this. You do this. You help marriages go from point A to point B, help them recover from negative challenges or experiences that they may be having, help them just find their level, so to speak. So tell us the name of your ministry, because I always want to call it Marriage Boot Camp. I don't know why I do. Right now I'm sitting here going, why do I keep wanting to call it Marriage Boot
That's
Camp?
okay.
Because it is one.
Yeah, right.
Tell them about the organization.
Well, actually, Couples Academy is an organization.
Couples Academy, there you go,
Couples
Jesus.
Academy. Well, we help place couples on the path to fulfillment. So basically, Hassani is an infidelity specialist. That's what he
Yes.
does. And right now, we're working on a program called the Couples Business School, which would bring in some of my business savvy, which would help small business owners that are owned by co-preneurs, help take them from 5 to 6 figures to 7 figures. So we're trying to create a well-rounded program that helps couples get their relationships together
Yes, and their
get their
business.
money together, because
Yes.
money is one of the biggest issues in relationships.
Yeah.
It's
Lovely.
destructive to relationships.
So now is co-preneurs something that you guys coined, or is that an actual title that's out there?
Co-preneurs is out there.
That's
I
out
like
there.
that.
Yeah,
But a lot
co-preneurs,
of the clients that we have served have had businesses, and has been a problem. And one of the most recent issues was a couple that had a business together, and things were so messed up that the wife just basically walked out, and the business just was sitting there, and she was like CEO or something like that. And it was like, I need my wife back because my business is sitting here with no CEO.
And she knew that. Once she left. Yeah.
So now you've got the issue of relationships, and then you've got the situation with your business, and you better get your relationship together if you're going to have a business together, because now you're going to lose everything.
That's right.
And to have a business and a relationship, because a relationship is one thing, but then to add a business to it, how do you two do it? I mean, that's tough.
Man,
I
my
think,
goodness.
you know, we ask the question all the time, like, what is your secret sauce? What makes your relationship unique and different and special? And I just think that we have a friendship. We started off as friends. So even when she gets on my last nerve Periscope,
She doesn't do that.
last nerve RMC audience, we're still friends. At the end of the day, we fall back on our friendship, and we're able to look at things and be able to work through things. And I think, you know, we want to help couples partner in passion and in profit, right? And I think the problem is that there's no way you can have a successful business if you hate your partner. You can't communicate. You have role confusion or dominating spirits and personalities, and there's just all this confrontation. There's no work-life balance. Your house is a wreck. Your kids are struggling. Everything's a wreck, and all you're doing is pursuing money, but that money that you're pursuing is tearing the foundation of your home apart. And so it's important. We were able to, and listen, we're still working through it. We're not perfect.
Right.
We don't have a perfect relationship.
But you're
perfect
willing.
household. Yes. We are committed to the power of Kanai, which is constant and never-ending improvement. Personal growth and self-development. That's what it is at the end of the day.
Now, isn't Kanai a real word, or is that you just use that as
It's an acronym.
Okay.
Not Carl
C-A-N-I.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about. But is it koinonia is probably what I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
you're
too.
probably thinking about
Okay. So Kanai, say it again. What does it mean?
C-A-N-I, Kanai, constant and never-ending improvement. And as long as we're committed to doing that, we're in a safe place. And one of the challenges is, you know, we were just talking about this last night. What if you're growing and you're pursuing things, but your partner is sitting back just chilling, no interest, no passion, no desire? Well, I have learned in our marriage, just looking at our patterns, even though we may not be on the same page at the same time, rather than me trying to beat her over the head and get on board, or her doing the same thing to me, when she made the decision she was just going to pursue something, I eventually came on board because I realized, okay, she's serious about this.
Right.
Let me get on board. So whether it was, I don't know, wanting to get back in the gym and work out, or whether it's pursuing education, or whatever it is, you know, you create your own weather and your own atmosphere in your marriage. And so you can win your partner over through your behavior. You don't have to articulate everything, speak on everything, and manipulate them into doing what they're not ready to do. They'll do it in due time. You do what you can do. You pray for your partner, and you just work, and you just grind and stay focused. And guess what? Your words become seeds that become implanted into the heart of your partner. Somebody else may come along and water it. Somebody else may come along and, you know, nurture the soil. God brings the increase. So just do your part and keep on going. And
So, well, why is it that people have a problem with feeling like they're getting over, like someone's getting over on you? And that's a big thing in marriage. Well, he's not doing this, and I'm not going to be the only one doing this. And why do I have to do this? You never do it. Why is it that we do that? That we constantly do that for natural reasons? We just flow that way.
I think, you know, it probably does happen. You know, there are double standards in your relationship, right? It just happens. I mean, male, female, you know, I'm the cook in the house, okay? So sometimes I wish Asani would get in that kitchen and learn how to boil a chicken or something. You know what I mean?
Just cook a hot dog.
You know what I mean? So I'm the cook and I work, you know, we run business together. So I think it's just how you look at it. It's really coming together. Like Hassani said, you know, when we talk about partnering in passion and profit, well, there are certain roles that we have to negotiate and figure out who's going to do what. And once we agree to what that is, then you should have a sense of peace about it. Like, nobody should feel like they're getting over on each other. And if they do, then come back to the drawing
And
table
negotiate
and renegotiate again.
Okay.
Right. And balance it out.
That's good.
I think the problem, to your point, to answer your question, on top of what she said, there's a lot of inequality in relationships. So you're right. Like, if you look at a scale, the scale should be balanced equally on both sides, but oftentimes it tips over to one side, and one partner is usually doing all the work. There's a phenomenal
wife.
book. There's a phenomenal
just
book I always
saying.
talk about, the superior wife syndrome.
Yeah.
And it talks about how men work
Sounds
from
good.
9 to 5, come home, and men need time to relax, recuperate. Let me just get my
your
mind
feet up.
right before you engage me and the kids and everything else.
Anthony.
But women, but check, and men need that. We're wired that way. But women,
We need that too.
Women work from 9 to 5, and when they come home, they work from 5 to 9. And so their jobs
Cooking,
never end.
cleaning.
Bills,
Right.
babies,
Right.
Yeah.
homework,
And at least that's
tasks.
definitely how it feels.
Oh yeah,
That's how it
so,
is.
So a
Yes.
lot of women are just It is said that men get the benefits of marriage and the blessings of marriage, and women are stuck with the burdens and the responsibilities of marriage. So we haven't really dealt with gender roles. We haven't dealt with roles and responsibilities and obligations that come along with marriage.
Yes.
And so we need to begin to do that in order to make this thing work.
And you would think that that's more reason for men to come home and just stroke their wives and tell them they're beautiful. And honey, this house wouldn't be, the way it is without you. And our kids are excelling because of your commitment.
Yes.
But it's so hard for men to even say that. So it's like you want the cake, you want to eat it too, and you don't want me to have no slice
No
of
cake.
it.
Not
No
even
slice of it. You don't want me to
frosting.
dip my finger in the
Right.
icing. So where does that come from?
I think men are changing on that. I mean, you talk to men about that a lot, and I don't think you have too much pushback with that chauvinist thing. Men are washing clothes and washing dishes, and some men are good cooks, some of them. And so I think
She said some.
Some of them,
Right, she had to-
as she hits you right here, some of them are.
I'm a work in progress.
right?
Just pray for me.
But I think that if men and women would just come together and work it out, like I think we just take it too seriously.
That's what it is.
We should be having more fun with this thing and not arguing so much and just negotiating how is this going to work. I think people just don't communicate. That's the biggest problem.
And it's funny because before you get married, Hassani, it seems like you kind of have that concept more intact about being respectful, not saying too much. And it's because you're protective that you could lose the person.
Right.
But once you say I do, it's a whole sense of ownership
Yeah.
that really changes
Yeah.
you from what you started out to be.
It's true.
You
it's
are
true.
so
That you begin
right.
to get taken for granted in some cases. Like she's not going nowhere, he's not going anywhere, and this is she's supposed to do that or he's supposed to do that. Back to the sense of entitlement we talked about yesterday.
I remember we just had a retreat a couple years ago, and we actually talked about the whole domestic violence, not violence, the whole domestic support situation in marriage. And I think we have a clip.
Oh, yes, we do. And I was going to ask you, do we have a clip? So let's show that clip because we don't want to miss opportunity to hear this.
In terms of men, because domestic support is also an issue for men that they are looking for. Domestic support for a man means when I come home and I've been battling at work all day, I don't want to come home and battle with you.
That's right.
Because my home is supposed to be my safe place, right? My sanctuary, the place where I reside and I rest and I have relaxation. And if I'm coming home from a hard day of work, and I'm struggling with the boss and I'm struggling with employees and clients, I don't want to come home struggling, fussing, and fighting with you.
That's right, man.
I heard one man say, when I lay down, I don't want to lay down next to another man.
That's it.
I'm not.
Preach, son.
And so it's important that we learn how to give our husbands the time and the space that they need when they first come in to recuperate. Sometimes as soon as men walk through the door, there's issues, there's challenges, babies are screaming,
Yes.
you gotta deal with this, you gotta deal with
Yes.
that, and he doesn't have enough time to recuperate. Crystal said, don't women go through the same thing? And absolutely they do. Women go through the same thing, and so that's why I said when dealing with relationships, you have to deal with it in a general sense. But that need is so important for a woman as well because women are doing it.
Exactly.
They're making it happen.
But what it is now is an interchange of responsibilities. We can't all expect him to do everything and me to do everything. He don't cook, so that's my job. But he does wash dishes, he does wash clothes, he's very domesticated. It's the times we live in. Okay? Now, if you are one of those couples that the wife is actually home and the husband is out working, then you can live more of a traditional lifestyle. But if you're both working, we gotta split this down the middle. We both are tired. And then later on that night, you got to do other things. We are both tired. We need to split those responsibilities. Otherwise, there's going to be some needs unmet. And husbands need to hear that because that domestic support is so important for a wife. You better learn to cook, get in that kitchen. He made me a chicken once. You better do what you
I love it. I love it. I mean, because that's exactly what we were talking about, is that those domestic roles.
Yeah.
And the thing I thought about is if the man comes home and he needs time to get himself together and just kind of, throw away the day and kind of get to I'm home with my wife and my family, then that's great. Allow him that time. But why didn't once he gets refreshed, why didn't he come in and say, honey, and you go on and do what you need to do. I'll take the kids.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. We have our own interpretation of what the role role of a husband or a wife should be based upon possibly what we saw in our home, right? So you begin to mirror what has been modeled for you. And if you come from two different households, two different cultures, two different experiences, when you come together, that's what the struggle is generally about. You know, we were just talking about this the other day. She grew up with boys. She has three brothers.
Right.
You know, so she has a perception of what manhood and masculinity is. I have my father. I lived in my household with my father. I have an expression or a perception of what manhood is. It conflicted with hers because what they experience is what it was different than what I experienced with my dad.
Right.
So sometimes the expectations that people have coming into a relationship, if they're not talked about, if they're not negotiated, it leads to all sorts of problems.
True.
Right. And you know, people don't realize that relationships are supposed to be handled like business agreement. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're supposed to outline, you know, what do you like? What don't you like? You know, you have to discuss these things. A lot of people, communication isn't big in their family line. They don't talk about things because that's not what you do. You just do. You just go through it and you'll some kind of way sort it out. Whereas most of us who've gone to college, we understand you got to have a plan. You got to talk. You got to know what the other person's thinking. A lot of people are still old school in that sense.
Well, I say this all the time, and then you could chime in. Listen, your relationship is different than your marriage. Your relationship speaks to your ability to emotionally connect, sexual fulfillment, the way that you communicate. Your marriage is more your business. You know, responsibilities, tasks, duties, the proper management of money, family planning, raising children. It's skill-based. And if you don't have the right skills to have a successful marriage, it can impact your relationship in a major way. So we see one of two things. People can either have wonderful relationships and horrible marriages, the business, or they can have wonderful marriages, everything's right in terms of paper, but horrible relationships. And if both aren't on an equal playing field, and if both aren't healthy, something's going to be impacted in a negative way.
Absolutely. And you have couples that are great friends but have no romance. You know, they are jacked up in the romantic department. They don't get in the bed, you know, they don't do any of that.
Nothing.
Or just out of order in the home. The kids are out of control. The house is out of control. So there's so much that needs to get managed and governed in your relationship. It's not just, I love you, baby, and we're just friends. It's just, it is, like you said, it is a business.
Yes.
It is a business. And you can lose water in different areas. I mean, if one person is a spender and doesn't like telling you that they spend, then you losing money out the business, you know, left and right. The bills aren't getting paid, and you know, new things is coming in the house, new furniture and all that, but bills aren't paid, you know. So there's a lot that goes into a relationship beyond just I love you.
So now in Couples Academy, I know you guys go around to, you have different conferences and you have different boot camp type experiences. I think you even go away and have retreats. What's coming up that's huge that people can, you know, kind of get involved in?
Wow, there's so much that we've just done. But we have scheduled what we call a group intensive.
Okay.
So you're right, we do retreats. But more specifically than that, we do a lot of intensives, like private marriage intensives. So as Danielle mentioned, I'm an infidelity recovery specialist. 90% of all my clients have been impacted by infidelity, and they want to figure out how can we overcome this, how can we make it through. So we're constantly either flying out to different states across the country, or people are flying into, you know, our state in order to have 72 hours of hardcore intense counseling where we really repair these relationships. And so we've been doing that, but we have a group intensive coming up for those couples that need more than a retreat. Retreat is good. You get to rest, relax, have fun.
Yes.
You go on a cruise, you go on a nice resort destination.
Right.
But some couples are in so much need of repair, none of that matters. Because they're looking at dire situations. I know couples right now who have been living out of bags, meaning luggage bags and suitcases, because they're literally 1 foot out the door. And if something doesn't change now, I'm out. So that's what we're more focused on, really restoring and repairing and recovering people's marriages, as opposed to just helping them to have better relationships.
Yes, yes. So God has you in the trenches. You're dealing with more
Oh,
catastrophic situations where you really have to get in there and do some things. So basically, if someone is, I don't care if they're as far as Alaska, and they say, we need help and we want you to come, they will send for you, whatever, then you go.
I have a backpack right by the door. So when the phone call comes, I'm out. We've flown to Canada out of a request. We've flown to Antigua out of a request. Different states within the country. We're going to Dubai in December for a vacation, but we're also setting up relationships with couples over there who need help. So we started off local, but it seems as though we're really moving in an international space. and we're having a great global impact, and we're excited about it. To have nations, we have London contacting us, we have people in Pakistan reaching out to us. It's just an awesome experience.
So people are listening to you through RMC or The Naked Truth, of course, Periscope. How can they reach you?
We want you to go right now. It's really simple. Couplesacademy.org. Couplesacademy.org. My cell phone, and the reason why I give my cell phone out is because people need help and they need help now. They can text me at 678-200-8996, 678-200-8996. What we do is we offer free complimentary 30-minute discovery sessions for those couples that are looking for help, and then based upon that, we then figure out a plan which consists of weekly coaching or private marriage intensives just to get people's relationship where they need to go. Couplesacademy.org, 678-200-8996. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter as well as Periscope. And we just want to be a blessing because, you know what, we have a story to tell. And my thing is, if we could overcome what we went through, anybody can overcome their struggle and their situation. So that's what we're here to do. That's what Couples Academy is really all about.
No, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And I'm sure the good thing about having you all as a couple do this is because Danielle's able to talk to the wife and to be able to pour into her heart. You're able to talk to the husband and pour into his heart, and then bring them together and be able to really answer the questions and get in there.
Couples Academy would not exist if Danielle wasn't a major integral part of it.
Because it wouldn't work.
It
You
wouldn't
can't
work.
be talking to couples by
Right.
yourself in and out. Yes.
So, you know, her contribution is so vitally important. And let me tell you something. I've been doing this for a long time as a relationship expert prior to even getting married. But I'm going to tell you something. Even my personal business and ministry went to a whole nother level once I partnered up with my wife and we were able to do it together. The impact that we have as a couple far exceeds any impact that I can individually have. So,
And isn't that how God designed marriage? That on some shape, form, or fashion, some level, you're going to do something together. It may not be full-on business. It could be ministry. It could be some, some interest you have. But there has to be some unity and something seen as a partnership somewhere in your marriage.
absolutely.
Well, I mean, God created Eve to be the helpmate, and so if there's no help,
if you ain't helping,
there's no
then what's your
point.
purpose?
If
Right.
there's nothing to do, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Actually, if there's nothing to do, you'll get busy doing something maybe you shouldn't be doing.
There we
like
go.
what he
Right.
did.
There we go. So, and that could be a good question to ask yourself when you're seeking out a mate.
Yeah.
Do I find myself to be useful to this person? Am I helpful?
Yeah.
For him?
Wow.
Yeah.
Do I see myself helping or partnering with him?
Yes,
Those
because,
are-
and that's what
Now-
I had said yesterday about when I met Hassani. When I saw his ministry, I instantly wanted to partner with that ministry with my little $9.32 check.
You were like, I'll give it to you, baby.
Yep,
I'll give it to
there
you.
it is.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a question geared towards the singles. Now, let's say, especially now with things changing in roles, I still believe that the woman is to be the helpmate to the husband. Let's say there's a woman and she meets a guy and she's the one who has the business and the great ideas, and he is okay with helping. Like, is there
a problem with that?
is there a problem with that? In a sense to where the woman's vision and plan, let's say one woman is in ministry and her husband is not in ministry, and so him helping her with that and things like that, like, is there a problem with
So
that?
you're saying her vision being at the forefront and him helping.
Right.
Well, let me just quickly say, I mentioned a couple nights ago that I have a business coach. We have a business coach who happens to be a woman. So the branding has her face all over it. Her name is all over it. However, she's in partnership with her husband. Her husband is the CEO and assisting from an administrative perspective of the business. He handles the marketing of the business,
Finances.
but she is the face
She's
of the
the
business.
personality.
Now, if he was an insecure man, it wouldn't work. But because he has, and this is what I said before, we all have strengths and weaknesses. And as great as the vision may be that this woman has, there may be something in that man that she needs to take that vision to the next level.
Right.
So I don't think we should be intimidated by each other's giftings and callings in life. If we're truly walking together, the Bible says, can two walk together unless they be in agreement? If you have the power of agreement, I don't care if a great idea comes from her. I'm not intimidated by that.
Right.
Can't nobody intimidate me. I don't care who you are and how much you know and how good you are, because I'm confident within myself.
Right.
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 And as long as I know the God in me, And as long as I know that I have the potential to be all that God has called me to be, can't nobody, including my spouse, intimidate me. So I will partner with her with anything if I know it's going to move in a positive direction.
And then think about it. If you're one, then her ideals are your ideals.
Boom.
Your ideals are her ideals. But see,
Exactly.
we still see each other as separate. And
Exactly.
we still compete with each other.
Right.
Well, how can I compete with you if you're my arm?
Right.
You know what I mean? How if you're my neck? You know what I mean? I don't compete
Right.
with a part of my body.
Right.
Now
So-
I have a
and
follow
then
up
we're
to
gonna,
that.
We're
Okay,
gonna
wrap it. Okay, I have a follow up to that. Now, what if you guys are okay with helping each other doing the same thing? But I think, or what I've seen is, you guys are both dealing with couples and ministry, and then you have, maybe celebrities who are together in music. Now, what if they are okay with helping each other, but they're completely separate ends of the spectrum? And so it's kind of hard to manage both. Like she's in ministry and maybe he's in music, or and so that completely two different spectrums. Like, how have you seen that?
We have that.
Okay.
Because Danielle's space is more on the business side.
Okay.
My space is more on the relationship side. So when it
Okay.
comes to like counseling and coaching, she's just like, Asani, that's your thing.
Okay.
Now, if we do a seminar and speak, fine, I'll join you. But the whole all the stuff you deal with, I don't want to have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Whereas she deals with business and marketing and all of that type of stuff, that's how we have birthed the couples business school.
Okay.
Partnering in passion relationships
Right.
and profit business.
Right.
So we're able to take our individual passions,
And bring them
them
together.
together and create something powerful.
So basically, there is a place where you can meet. You need to find it.
There it is.
Okay.
That's what it is. Okay, well, I mean, we always run out of time, and we always have great dialogue, and to have you all in studio has been very, very impactful and very warming to my heart, especially on my birthday. And then we have to say that Danielle's birthday was on October 16th.
15th.
Right, 15th. And so we celebrated her and gave her a lot of love, but that's probably why Hassani sees me as his sister, because I probably remind him a lot about of Danielle. Anyway, so we were happy to have you here. Tell them again how they can reach you, because I know that if some people didn't write that down, I want to make sure they get it.
I want you to go right now. You should blow my website up.
Yes, you should.
www.couplesacademy.org, and sign up. If you fill out the form, receive the free audio, and for those that want to contact me directly as soon as possible, 678-200-8996.
All right, you heard
Says
it.
happy birthday too.
Thank you. Thank you, Paris.
And as soon as
Girls,
we
you're
get
the best.
back,
We're going to keep you
as
around.
soon as we get back, the celebration continues because it's our anniversary on the 26th.
And how many years again?
13
13 years.
Yes.
Woo, raise the
Live it up.
roof.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you again, and thank you, Charity and Anthony, for handling our Periscope interaction. And we'll see you all next time when Hassani will probably be on Skype. Don't forget, it's not your abilities that reveal your true strengths. It's your choices. Good night.